We are in the midst of the NBA playoffs, and things were very interesting last night. A battle and a blowout is what we got last night. Let's go out to Chris Broussard, co-host of First Things First. Check out First Things First weekdays at 7:30 a.m. Eastern on FS1. Also the co-host of The Odd Couple with Chris Broussard and Rob Parker on Fox Sports Radio. So, Chris, I wasn't very confident with the Celtics going into this series. I thought the sweep of the Nets was a little exaggerated. I didn't have high expectations for the Nets in the postseason at all. But last night was a really balanced game. It just was a lot of Giannis being amazing and then role players stepping up. Do you still have confidence in the Celtics going forward in the series?
Yeah, I picked them in 7, and I'm sticking with it. Obviously, their backs are against the wall and they're facing an uphill battle. Even if they somehow win Game 6 in Milwaukee, it's going to be tough to come back and win a Game 7. That's been the rhythm of the series. A team wins every other game. But I do believe they got a good chance, a better chance than many are giving them to beat Milwaukee in Game 6. We saw them win on Milwaukee's floor in Game 4. We saw them rally from a 7-point fourth quarter deficit in that game. And that's why last night, I don't think the moment was too big. I think they made some bad plays. Marcus Smart was trying to do a little bit too much, turning the ball over twice in the last 50 seconds. Jason Tatum was wide open on the last play that Drew Holiday stole the ball from Smart. Smart didn't see him. And Smart also was involved in that play where Bobby Portis got the game-winning rebound and put back. He and Jaylen Brown bumped into each other, which allowed Portis to get the rebound. So they had some self-inflicted wounds. And give Milwaukee credit. Giannis, come on, he was shooting 10% from 3 heading into the game. And to your point, he has made big play after big play. I don't think people think of him as that great clutch guy that wants the ball down the stretch. But if you look at the last 2 seasons, whether it was against Phoenix last year, whether it was against Brooklyn last year, and this series against Boston, when the moment calls for a big play, you can go even to a few regular season games this year, he delivers. And him to hit that 3 from the top of the key with about a minute left was huge. So give Milwaukee credit, but I do think Boston still has a shot. I think, Joy, without Chris Middleton, they've shown themselves to be the better team. Now, Milwaukee obviously has the best player, but I think team-wise they're better, and that's why I still give them a shot. Well,
The Warriors, we think, is the better team than the Grizzlies, and that did not happen last night. I don't... I can't remember a time where I literally was like, I don't know. Are they throwing this game? Like, do they want to have another game in Golden State? Like, what's going on here? Obviously, they're not throwing the game. But it was so bad. There was nothing happening, and it spiraled. I mean, they were down by 55 at one point. What happened?
When you're down, Joy, 55, I mean, that is unheard of, particularly for a championship team. Now, historically, we've seen teams have inexplicably bad games in playoffs and come back and rally as if nothing happened. It's way back, but I think back to the Memorial Day massacre with the Lakers of Showtime, who lost by 34 in Game 1 to the Celtics in the finals, ended up coming back and winning the finals in 6. So I think they can rally from it, and I expect them to close out the Grizzlies in 6 games. But for those that have been looking to Golden State to win the championship, that's the concern. I don't feel the concern is can they get out of this series. But if people thought they'd beat Phoenix, who I think closes out Dallas tonight, to get to the finals and then beat whoever comes out of the East, that isn't looking likely when you saw what happened last night. And let's face it, Klay Thompson isn't quite himself yet. Understandably, he has his moments here and there. He has his stretches of good games, but he's not the consistent force he's been before the injury. So I think they survived the series, but I don't think they get to the finals and win it like some people have expected.
We're talking to Chris Broussard, Joy Taylor in for Colin Cowherd on the Herd. So my Heat play tonight against the Sixers. Now, obviously, James Harden is a different player in Miami. You know, there's a lot more stuff going on in the city of Miami than other places. So he doesn't quite have the performances you would like. But he did have a moment in this series where we saw vintage Harden, which is fair to call him at this point based off of the way that he's been playing, that was a vintage performance because we don't see that all the time. Are you expecting a better performance out of James Harden tonight? Is someone else going to have to step up because we know Joel Embiid is injured and is doing the best that he can with what he's got at this point?
Yeah, I'm not expecting a vintage Harden performance. It looks like, Joy, he can go vintage once every 4 or 5 games. Maybe once every 5 games, I should say. And his game was game 4. I don't expect to see that. He should play better than he did in game 5 because that was horrible. 14 points, 4 assists, outplayed by 2 undrafted guards in Gabe Vincent and Max Strus in Miami. So he'll be better, but they need everyone to step up. And look, Joel Embiid, I hear you. He's valiant and he's fighting through some serious injuries. It's got to be painful and problematic to play with a broken face. Let's just keep it real. However, you're out there. You're one of the best players in the world. You played well in games 3 and 4, so you got to be much better than 17-5, which is what you gave them in game 5. So I think Embiid will be better. And if Harden's just a little bit better, but Maxey and Tobias Harris play well because they struggle. Their 4 top players struggled in game 5, which is how you get beat by 35. So if Maxey and Tobias can bump it up a little bit as well and get around 20 points each, I think they have a shot. I think Miami's going to win this series and probably close them out tonight. But look, Doc Rivers, James Harden, and to a lesser extent Embiid all have something to prove tonight. And really, Doc, will he lose his job if they lose this series? Harden, will he get a long-term extension if they lose this series, particularly in 6? And Embiid, with that narrative out there, whether you believe it or not, that he was moping through game 5 because he didn't win the MVP award, just the fact that that's out there is not a good look. It makes people question your mental toughness and your ability in the future to lead a team to a championship. So they've all got something at stake and something to prove beyond just winning the game. So maybe they'll step up and extend this thing. But I got to be honest, Joy, I'd be a tad bit surprised.
So we haven't talked much about the other game tonight, which I think is going to be a huge one in the Suns and Mavs. The home team has won every game in this series and has sort of planted a little bit of doubt in how great this number 1 seed Suns team is. What do you expect tonight in that game?
Well, I expect Phoenix to close them out. I didn't expect it to go 6 games. I thought the Suns would win in 5. And they better win tonight because Luka Doncic is the best player in this series, with all due respect to CP3 and Devin Booker. And anytime you go into a game 7, you don't want to be on the other side of the best player. And so they need to go in there and close them out tonight and stop fooling around with the Mavericks team that is just going to keep getting better as time goes on. And so the key is Chris Paul, because the reason they're in a battle right now, a 3-2 series, is because Chris Paul hasn't played well over the last 3 games. He's averaging 8 points and 7 assists in these last 3 games. We know he was horrible in Dallas, fouling out with 5 points in game 4, 7 turnovers in the first half of game 3. So I expect him, as an all-time great point guard who's still playing great basketball, to come out of that slump and play well tonight. And if he does that, they'll win. If he does that, they'll win. Like, Booker's going to be Booker. Ayton and the role players, I think enough of them will play well. If Chris Paul's himself, they'll win this game and close out the Mavericks tonight.
So we could have 2 closeouts tonight. One I'm concerned about is the Heat, though. We gotta get that done.
Yeah.
Chris Broussard, thank you so much.
I think we could very well see that.
I hope so. Chris Broussard goes to First Things First and The Odd Couple with Rob Parker on Fox Sports Radio. Thanks so much for joining us, Chris.
Anytime, Joy. See you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.